to the Cavalier Corner, a show in which we'll be discussing all kinds of fun topics related to student life. My name is Juliana, and today we're joined by Cambry, Johan, and our very special guest, Victoria. Today, we'll be discussing how we chose our majors. So, Johan, how long did it take you to choose a major?
I think for me, it took at least 2 years for me to choose my major. 2 years ago when I started JUCO, I had no idea what I was doing. I basically was a little bit confused because I'm the type of person that just likes everything. Like not everything, but I just want to try a little bit of everything. And I'm just not satisfied with one thing. And I think over my time at JUCO, just getting a little bit involved, just taking a few classes like advertising, journalism, and also being involved as a student life ambassador, it made me realize how important communication is. So I thought I would be a communications major, and that's what I decided to do. I do like to write, I do like to film and edit, so that really geared me towards what I want to do, and I'm happy to see how that works out in the future and just the career that I would.
Definitely. I think it's amazing that just through your experiences here, you were able to choose something that you really like. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
No, definitely. It's not easy.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
All right, Cambry.
So it took me practically my whole life, and it's still I'm a year from now I could change again. Had you asked me this question a year ago, I probably would have told you I was hoping to go into dietetics. I started taking all the prereqs for that, and this last year, and they weren't going like I hoped they would. I was getting the required grades, and everything was going great there. It was just I did not enjoy it like I thought it would. I was like, God, what was I thinking? It took me 22 years to decide on something, and this is what I decided on. Time for a plan B. So, actually, the last day we were on campus in a normal capacity, I was taking a biology exam, and I was like, I am never going to see this test again. This is not for me. It's time for something different. And I actually went to the student lounge manager, Brittany's going away party, right after that. And she's like, this is the greatest job in the galaxy. If you guys ever have the opportunity to go into education, you need to do it. So I was like, yeah, that's the push I needed. My future is definitely in higher education. So right now I'm doing American Studies at KU and a minor in education. The American Studies came from the fact that it is basically history from the perspective of today, and it's very interdisciplinary and a great stepping stone for the future. So I'm excited. But, who knows? With me, it's probably going to change.
I'm glad you were able to narrow it down. I think it's super exciting. I definitely consider going into the education route early on in life, and then I figured it just wasn't necessarily for my lack of patience would start to show if I became a professor or anything like that.
Yeah, really up until the last year, I'd always thought of education as being K through 12. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of I never thought of that as a career path for me, because I was I definitely do not want to teach grade school or anything like that. That's a no. And most schools don't offer an undergraduate in anything besides K through 12 education. So that's kind of also where the American Studies came from. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be something new, and I can't wait to see what happens.
For sure. Yeah. Victoria, what was it like for you?
It was weird. So when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of thought that I needed to follow this path of my sisters, because both of my sisters have a doctorate in psychology, and they're like therapists and everything. And so I kind of thought I needed to follow their path and kind of do the same thing. And so for a long time, I thought I was going to be a psych major and I wanted to do something like social work. And then my senior year of high school, I finally decided, okay, that's not what I want to do. I want to do interior design. I want to do something creative. So when I started at JCCC, I was an interior design major. And then I was in that major for one semester, and then I dropped it because I realized that it wasn't just like picking out paint samples and like decorating a room. It was a lot of like business and finding contacts, and it was very it was competitive. It was a competitive field, and I didn't think that's what it was. And so I decided that wasn't for me, and so I switched to just like the normal like liberal arts major to something like basic. And then I graduated Johnson County, and then I went on to my first university, and I went to Auto University, and then I switched it back and I went to social work and humanities. That was my major. And I thought that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to help people. And then within about a semester of that major, I realized that it was very emotionally tolling on me. Like learning about social work and learning about like how to like care for these like underprivileged families and children, things like that. It's really like emotionally draining, and like you carry a lot of baggage with you, like with the work. Realized that wasn't for me either. I didn't want to like bring home that baggage every day. And so then I decided, well, I want to be an event planner. That was when I kind of got into this role as the admin for student activities. And I realized that I really enjoy planning events. I, like organizing things like that. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go into hospitality. So I switched my major and my school again, went to Fort Hays State University for the hospitality major. I was in that major for about 3 days, and then I dropped that program because I realized that it still wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I took about a year off. And so now I'm back. I'm going to start back in school this upcoming fall at UMKC in just the normal BLA program. So I'll get a bachelor's in liberal arts, but my minor is going to be entrepreneurship, because since I don't really know what I want to do yet, I just know what I don't want to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I figured if I had an entrepreneurship minor, and I can kind of, take what classes I want and kind of get like a customized degree for what I want to do. Because I think down the line, I still want to do something within event planning. I really enjoy this job. I enjoy this role. I enjoy higher education, but I don't know if I want to stay within higher education forever. But I do definitely enjoy like organizing events. And so whether that be I start my own business or, whatever that may be, I figured entrepreneurship was kind of the best path I could have taken for right now. It probably will change again, who knows? But yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of switching majors and like not knowing what I want to do and feeling like my world is crumbling because I have no path or no direction. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I like the different paths that you chose along the way. I think like all of them probably taught you something about what is it that you don't want to do. And I think like knowing what you don't want to do is actually a little bit better than knowing what you do want to do. Because then when you find what you want to do, you realize that everything like fits together, and then you're not stuck on something that you really didn't want it in the first place.
Well, I think it changes as you get older, because with society, there's this high expectation, that seniors have to choose their major and choose what they want to do for the rest of their life. And a lot of people change their major their first or second year of undergrad because they realize, well, you grow up a lot by the time you graduate high school from the time you're in college. Like you change as a person. And so I think as you grow up and as you change and as you have like more life experiences, your interests change. And so it's almost just natural to just change a major. I find it rare for someone to have their original major, like to graduate from their original major. Like I don't see that very often. So I think it comes with age, and of course, like the longer you're in school, I think the more it changes because the more you're growing and the more you're learning new things. So yes, it's up and down. It's a roller coaster, really.
Yeah, I feel the same way as Victoria, being like, I have no idea what I want to do, but I know exactly what I don't want to do. And I would always tell like counselors and advisors and professors and, you know, teachers and stuff like that, and they'd be like, well, that's nice. And I'm like, one time when I said that, and I'll never forget, somebody was like, well, guess what? The thing about undecided is it's the most popular major, so you're not alone. And that was like just what I needed to hear, because when you are in a position where you're like undecided, you feel all alone, but yet there's thousands of people that feel the exact same way. So like somebody saying that to me was like reassuring. And yeah, I was just like, okay, maybe I'm not the only one that doesn't have a plan. So yeah, I feel that.
No, yeah, for sure. Like when I like first started, like I thought I would do psychology. But that completely changed, and it seemed like I was more of a business major and communications major in psychology, which is just really interesting. Like Victoria said, like things can really change in like what your experience is.
I think that's also an important point. You can like something and be interested on the topic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's what you want to do for the rest of your life. Those are two different things.
Definitely. What about you, Juliana?
For me, I kind of always known my whole life that I wanted to do something related to writing, because that's how I would express myself. Like always, I'm not very confrontational. So whenever I was like in the middle of an argument with someone or like my parents or something, you would expect there to be like a little note written, like me airing out like all my grievances and just like giving it to them to read, and just writing like stories and things like that to like help me not just cope with stress, but like actually develop my creativity and imagination. Like that's where everything went down for me. So as I grew older, I started to refine that a little more, and it became to journalism. And that was like one of the main things that I wanted to do. But I was also super interested in psychology. And as I started like in high school, started getting more and more like psychology and sociology classes, I like realized that I wanted that. So for now, I am hoping to double major in journalism and psychology. So that's like sort of the path that I took. But at first I wanted to be like a veterinarian, because well, I just wanted it so much. Animals are just like, I could not express to you how much I love my dog. And like any other animal that I see, I'm like the most annoying person to ever walk around with, because I see a bird and I want to stop and take like a photo of the bird, make sure the bird's okay. Like I'm of everything. But then I started to research into the career, and then I realized, okay, well, maybe not necessarily for me. Like I love animals, but I don't necessarily want to do everything that like being a vet would involve. And then it just kind of went from that focus, and then I switched to just, again, what I've always been doing that I hadn't taken account of yet was writing. So then I realized, okay, maybe this is something that I could like use in my career field, and so that's how it led there. But yeah, it definitely took some time and a lot of thinking, and it's I feel like almost everyone feels the pressure to figure it out, and you don't have to figure it out right away. There's no like set rule that says that you have to. You have time in like college and university to really think about what you want to do, and like it's okay if you're like undecided at first, and then you try different paths, but then eventually what matters is that you get to where you want to get and you're satisfied with that.
Right. Exactly. Like there's a lot of people who think that like everybody has to follow the same path, everybody has to graduate at the same year, but it's not like that. Like everybody's path is different, and what matters is that you get it done, not the time that you.
Well, and that was something that I struggled with a lot this past couple months, like while we were in quarantine, because I actually graduated high school 4 years ago. So by that, societal pressure, I should have my undergrad by now. And there was a lot of kids that I went to high school with that were graduating during like the quarantine. And I kind of fell into this weird like self-doubt, ideal of like, I wasn't doing something right. Like I was falling behind because, I only had an associate's degree, and it messed me up for a few weeks, you know, just seeing everyone's like graduation pictures and seeing everyone like get like real jobs, and like everyone like I went to school with that are my age has, you know, their undergrad. And like it's hard, you know, it's hard to not compare yourself to people that are, you know, already finished or, you know, going on to master's programs or whatever they're doing. But it's true, you know, there's not a timeline, you know, it's just when you get it done. And that was something that was really hard for me to grasp for a long time, because I felt like I needed to be done with everyone else that I went to school with. So
Yeah, I felt the same way. I also finished high school 4 years ago, so technically I should have graduated this year
right.
with my like bachelor's degree had I followed the traditional path.
Right.
But I was actually 19 when I finished high school, so I was already older going into college. And then I took a whole year off. I was part-time for 2 full semesters, so I transferred schools. So there's a lot that like led to me only having an associate's at this time. And for years I was like, I am so far behind. Like everybody I know is either like has a job lined up or they're already accepted to like 2 grad programs. You know, I have cousins that are my same age that they're like done, you know, moving on, and I'm like, well, here we go, still getting that associate. And so when the quarantine and everything happened, and I was like, graduation is canceled, and I was like, because my goal was always to graduate college in 2020, because I'm like, that's like the coolest sounding year to graduate. Like I'll never forget the year I graduated college, 2020, right? And I was like, it's gonna be like a KU, it's gonna be like going down the hill and all that. And so that didn't happen for anybody this year. So for like the first time in my life, I was like, I'm really grateful and happy that things worked out the way that they did, because had they worked out the way that I thought they were supposed to be, I feel like I wouldn't have been on the right path, and I would have had even more like sadness and self-doubt over the last few months with everything going on, because I'm like, the only thing that like got me through like everything that's happening is like there's something better still to come. And I don't know if I would have had that reassurance had I been in a different position. So yeah, I mean, my family, they always joke I'm like slow like molasses. So everything happens in its own time. So I'm very grateful.
For sure.
For sure, yeah. Well, thank you so much for everyone tuning in. We love to hear your suggestions about what you'd like us to talk about next. Check us out on our social media platforms. We are JCCC, Student Life, on Instagram and Facebook. And if you'd like to find out more information about events we have going on, check out our Get Involved at JCCC page. Thank you so much for Victoria, Camry, and Johan for being here. Thank you so much, you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.